Hi, everyone.
Hi again. We're in 1 Corinthians 7, talking about marriage and other policies, can we say, in the early church about marriage and separation. So he gives some very good advice here, and we wanted to note the authority aspect of this, not so much the marital side of it. It's pretty straightforward what he says, but how he says that you can judge authority within the early church is very, very interesting when you know what Jehovah's Witnesses do with authority. So we wanted to read from the New World Translation and verses 10 through 16 of chapter 7.
Okay. To the married people I give instructions, not I, but the Lord, that a wife should not separate from her husband. But if she does separate, let her remain unmarried, or else be reconciled with her husband, and a husband should not leave his wife. But to the others I say, yes, I, not the Lord. If any brother has an unbelieving wife, and she is agreeable to staying with him, let him not leave her. And if a woman has an unbelieving husband, and he is agreeable to staying with her, let her not leave her husband. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified in relation to his wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified in relation to the brother. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but now they are holy. But if the unbelieving one chooses to depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not bound under such circumstances, but God has called you to peace. For wife, how do you know whether you will save your husband? Or husband, how do you know whether you will save your wife?
Well, first, before we get into the issue of authority in marriage, what appeared to be might appear to be at a tangential point, which is the divine names again. Who are the authorities here according to these 7 verses?
Well, he speaks of the Lord twice in verse 10, not I but the Lord, and in verse 12 it's I, not the Lord, and then God refers to God in verse 15, and this is in the New World Translation.
So they've never managed to intrude Jehovah in here, as we've pointed out many times so far. They haven't been able to get Jehovah in a lot of places, and that's the case here, because he's talking about the word of the Lord as opposed to his own authority or his own word, right? His own advice.
He differentiates between what the Lord has said and what he is personally advising here.
But in the very next verse, which we'll get to in the next video, they have managed to find a way to get the Tetragrammaton in. But that's a side issue here. The issue, though, is the contrast of authority between an apostle and the Lord, Jesus Christ, as they would seem to acknowledge, because he's called Lord most of the time. The one Lord in the next chapter, the one Lord is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this? When you come from a witness background, you're used to hearing God's organization as if you're listening to the voice of Jehovah.
Yeah, they would not distinguish between, this is our advice as the governing body, and this is Jehovah's.
This is the word. Yeah.
They'll just say this is Jehovah. So what we say might as well be Jehovah.
So according to their logic today, that would mean that if you oppose their advice on any level about anything, let's say, as we saw years ago, we heard of people, and we met one person who was disfellowshipped for not rejecting 1914, but not understanding it.
Yeah.
And she was kicked out. And you think, well, what makes 1914 so important that you would? But we know people who've been disciplined, even disfellowship, for less than 1914.
Yeah. I mean, in this piece here, he gives them his advice, but he doesn't say, and if you disobey it, you're out. He seems to assume some will take the advice and some won't.
Yeah.
And he doesn't pull rank on them. as an apostle.
Yeah, we've seen that pattern throughout the first 6 chapters, haven't we? When he has a problem with you, and he has a lot of problems with them, Corinthians, he doesn't pull rank and threaten to discipline them or shun them. He reasons with them. He exhorts. He cajoles.
He gives them good
he jokes,
advice.
even offers satire sometimes, and he keeps that up through the whole two books of Corinthians. Sometimes he'll satirize his opponents even, but he certainly doesn't threaten them with discipline.
Yeah.
And then you realize, okay, well, why is he even making a case about this marriage thing here? Why is he driving a wedge between his own authority and his advice as an apostle? It's because the Corinthians, probably because they are pagans, don't have the same view of marriage and or sexuality as Jews would.
They wouldn't have the same circumstances, for sure, as the Israelites would, because the Israelites would be rather of one mind when it came to marriage
and divorce
and one custom.
Yeah.
But when you go into a pagan place, it's like when missionaries go to countries where the customs are totally different, and then they have to resolve problems like loads of wives.
Multiple wives.
You know, what are they supposed to do? You have to face that situation as it comes and give advice and try and work it out. But it's not the same situation as the Jews would have had.
No, so that's one tension. That is, this is a Gentile world that Paul's dealing with now, as opposed to the Jewish way of looking at things. But there's also the second problem that he's already identified, and we've identified in the previous 2 videos, which is you're dealing with a bunch of people who think they're now free from constraints.
Yeah.
So maybe this is another situation where some would feel that whatever commitments they have made in the past, including marriage commitments,
that they're dissolved somehow, or they don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
So he's giving them the mind of the Jewish believer, really, that marriage is a covenant.
It's a covenant.
But he's making room for the fact that they are in different circumstances, and not all of them are going to do what you would like them to do.
Yeah. Now, it needs to be said that when it comes to divorce and marriage, Christians do disagree today because they think of us more being in the Corinthian situation, where you have to factor in the cultural norms of the day. But I think New Testament, Paul here is very direct. There's really only one justification for separation from a mate.
Yeah.
Certainly divorce, which is infidelity.
Infidelity, yeah.
And he doesn't leave any room for Christians separating from their unbelieving mate on any other basis. So I think he's adhering to the line, as Jesus drew it in Matthew 19 in a different context.
So now, what's the Watchtower's position on marriage and divorce?
Well, we're getting the impression from our contacts, both in comments and personal contacts that we've made, that the Watchtower's less concerned nowadays with marriage and divorce than they are with loyalty to the organization.
Yeah, so covenant in marriage seems to be of less importance to them than your covenant with them.
Right.
Your baptismal commitment that you made to them. And so we hear of people being told, that their mate said that they were in danger of spiritual pornography.
Watching apostate videos, etc.
Yeah. And having any connection with someone who disagrees with the Watchtower is putting them in spiritual jeopardy. And that overrules your commitment to marriage.
Yeah.
Whereas Paul doesn't seem to say that about a pagan environment where they probably had some pretty wild customs, and yet he's still encouraging them to stay with their mate.
Yeah. So it appears that the only covenant that really counts for Jehovah's Witnesses today is the covenant they've entered into at their Jehovah's Witness baptism. They have committed to Jehovah's organization as their highest commitment.
So if we think of marriage as a covenant designed by God, what does that say? When you're saying your commitment to us is more important than a divine covenant.
Yeah. Now, what are our links?
We're going to link to a video where I was reading passages from Mere Christianity, and it happened to be about marriage. So the title of it is, Do Jehovah's Witnesses View Marriage as Divine Covenant, Binding for Life, as the Bible teaches?
Mm-hmm. See you next time.
Bye.